Jimmy Parsons, I've been so fired up to have this conversation with you. You are the guy that brings the most joy to my life, traveling around the world at these President's Club trips or being at a coaching summit. Just your attitude and your sunshine, your radiance, your vibrancy, your just kick-ass attitude that is always competitive, but generous, but fun. This is going to be a huge treat for me and a delight for everybody who gets to listen. So thank you for being here from Montgomery, Alabama, where you've been a loan officer for 20 years and just last year helped over 180 families for $52 million in business. That's a consistent 15 families a month. But wait, there's more. You're also a head coach in Elevate Coaching at Guild Mortgage, where you lead coaches and coach other loan officers. And you are a producing branch manager, and you've got 8 other fantastic loan officers that produced another $100 million in business last year, in addition to your $52 million. So I got to just start with, how do you do it all, Jimmy, and keep a smile on your face?
Well, I love it. Like, I totally get up in the morning and jazzed about it. So I love my people. I love producing. I get jazzed about producing. So I never want to stop producing, ever. I get jazzed about it. A lot of people kind of get burned out. I like it. I like the grind. I like what you learn. I like being in the game, out there in the weeds. But I love investing in people. And there comes a time in your career where you're like, all right, I'm ready to leave a legacy. I want to give as much as I've learned. I want to give it, if I come up with an idea, I want to share it. And I just, what's great about Guild, there's 2 things that's awesome. It's a culture of excellence, but it's a culture of sharing. I remember joining Guild and listening to you, and you're on these videos and telling me all the things, and like, man, what a great organization to be in. And so I've just bought into that. And, the more you share, the more you give, the more you lead, it all comes back anyway. So I'm passionate about it. And I do find time. I have a great team around me, and I do find time to get home to the wife. And, I'm not, I find the balance, but, I think when you are absolutely enjoy it and love it, it makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah. People love working with people who are happy doing what they do.
Right.
So level 11 excellence with level 11 joy and shockingly happy, radiant, passion is like unstoppable. That is the goal. And I know you've worked on both excellence and joy all the time and every day. You and Stephanie have been married for 15 years. You've got 2 daughters at 17. Oh boy. A 6-year-old and a 12-year-old. So it's not like your personal life isn't totally slammed and busy. Right. Do you try to spend X number of hours in your branch in sales leadership and X number of hours in coaching and Elevate and X number of hours in production? Are you time blocked? Like, how do you balance the 3 different?
I'm going to totally give you the wrong answer. No, I'm not as rigid as one would think. To me, it's like an art. It's just, I'm very creative in that manner. So I will tell you this. I took one of those personality tests, and I can't remember the name of it, but I tested like off the chart, weird scale into the area of focus.
Nice.
And so it is very easy for me to immediately go into, all right, right now I'm going to be an Elevate head coach, and to shut down everything else within my mind and then give 100% into that. And then switch that off. And now I'm going into prospecting personal production. I think I don't know where that came from or what, but I've always been able to abnormally focus on something and put all my effort into that. And I think it helps me because I can immediately turn on my computer, get here in the morning and know, I've got to spend the next 30 minutes doing this. And weirdly knowing that I can still accomplish what I need to accomplish. Now, I do work off of the task list. I do work off of, all right, I'm doing, 9:30 to 10:30 calls for personal prospecting and all that. But I'm not as rigid as one would think when it comes to time blocking. So
I'm really glad you said it's an art, because that's truly it. And it's not about being efficient. It's about being effective.
Right.
And you leave an imprint on every person you touch. I feel it, Jimmy, every time I'm in your presence. And I've watched you do that everywhere we go. Now, for those that aren't going to see this video live, but they're going to listen to us, you have this beautiful gray hair. You know, you're memorable, and you play with that persona. I forget who are you. Bon Jovi? Is that?
Yes, that is the funniest story if you want me to share with that. But I get mistaken for Bon Jovi a lot. So what was this? This was last year when we were in Cabo, right? And so this is hilarious. All right, I'm going to spend time talking about this. So we're down there at President's Club, and I'm having lunch with my wife and a couple of other guild folks, and we're walking by the pool, and this woman walks up to me. She's very excited. I didn't recognize her, and she's like, "Can I have a picture with you?" And I was like, "Sure." I thought she was somebody that worked at Guild, right? And so I took a picture with her. And my wife kind of looks and is like, what's going on here? And so then these two other guys swam up to me. It's like, can we have a picture with you also? And can we shake your hand? And my wife walks away and the other couple walks away, and I shake their hand. They take a picture and they're all excited and they run off. I said, that's really weird. I don't know what that was about. It was really weird. So it turns out, I found this out later, that those people were there for a sales convention themselves. And they had a little intranet company app. And those three people said, OMG, I just met Bon Jovi. He's at the resort. And so all of a sudden, there's 100 people that, the whole study and confirmation bias, they just knew I was Bon Jovi. So for the rest of the weekend, I had people walking up to me, saying, hey, we love your music, and all that's like, thank you, And then, of course, the guild people were loving this. And I was embarrassed, but they were loving it. Let's play it up, Jimmy. People like Ross Barrett, I don't know if you know him. They were going to start acting like my bodyguards. And so we go up to the bar, and these people want to come talk to me. And Ross stands up to him and says, give him his space. We're not talking to anybody right now. And so the moment he did that, like all these people were like, holy crap, Bon Jovi's here. And they were following me around and taking pictures. It was insane. And so from that point on, I became Guild's version of Bon Jovi.
Love it.
Hilarious. So we have the same hair, I think.
I want to break down your archetype because I think it lends into this story really well. And part of having fun with everything you do and building these great relationships all over the country is you have. Right. You've flown out to Reno and spoke at my Slay with Shay event. By the way, that talk was absolutely epic. And I'll never forget some of the analogies that you had. And I think you had a whole football acting. It was amazing. But you are a trust builder technician.
Right.
And typically a trust builder, their strengths are that you're really, really good at building connection and trust with people. You're good at becoming their friend, their homie, their sidekick, somebody that they would just lean on and reach out to. And in business, that's very powerful because we need people to trust us and to get close to us. The challenge or the pinch point generally for a trust builder is that they like to keep their circle kind of small, right? They find their homies, their crew, and it's like, hey, I got my people already. And that can cause you to get stagnant in your business and hit a plateau. But then the technicians on the other side, a technician is generally somebody who's a really strategic thinker and maybe is really good at the technical side of doing a loan or the guidelines or the art of the deal. But also you can see strategically on how you can find open doors or create opportunities or provide value for people. And so what I always say is you need to use that secondary archetype, the technician, the strategic part of yourself to get scale, to actually expand that small little network that maybe is comfortable to build. So I'm wondering for you, knowing that you live in a small tri-county area, Montgomery, 300,000 people, you're closing 180 deals a year. That's a 26% growth year over year. And you had 73 different realtors refer you. So what was that breakthrough for you that made you go from good and a loan officer who is established and good to like Rainmaker, to being the mayor of your small town, to, having that many people trust and refer you?
Yeah. So I think there are a couple things. It's interesting how all your creativity and your ideas come to fruition when it's slow and when it's, downturn. A lot of people sit on their hands when things get slow and they're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. For me, my history, I've been through 3 downturns, including 2008 and all that. What I've learned over time is that when we cycle down, you have to triple down on everything you do, and you have to use every thought and creative piece in your brain to expand your relationships, right? Because there's just not enough to go around.
Yep.
And so this last downturn, 2020 is great. We're closing $100 million, $80 million, whatever. So, you have the infrastructure to close a lot of business. But then 2023 just, sunk. So for me, I was like, I have to double, triple, my relationships to just, keep this branch profitable.
Yep.
And so that was the birth of what is now known in circles as the Jimmy text, right? So
yes.
I leveraged my close realtor groups, and it was out of frustration for me because the realtors still didn't have a clue what was going on, right? Why is this? And so I had a conversation with real close people and said, hey, I need to keep y'all up to speed of what's going on. Can I just would you be open to me sending like a daily text every day that tells you what's happening and what the average rates are? And they were like, oh my gosh, that'd be great. So I just started doing that, and it grew like wildfire. So I take my knowledge of the industry, knowledge of the market, maybe some tips, some tactics, some guidelines, maybe something funny every now and then.
Humor.
And then I started texting these realtors every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And before I knew it, I had over 100 realtors. They were calling me, can I get on this? Can I get on this? So it just spread. I was like, hey, this is working. This is working. And then of course it spread, through Guild and to you and all of that. And so that allowed me to get my personality out there to scale on a daily basis, right?
Yes.
It's very simple, but it was brilliant and it worked. And all of a sudden now I'm top of mind, and I've gotten all these realtors just addicted because I'm the one that tells them what's going on.
So what was the problem you were trying to solve? Obviously, your business had slowed way down. We knew the rates were jumping like crazy. Were you having unproductive conversations with realtors? Were they sending? Okay. So tell me what was the genesis of saying, in addition to I need more relationships, what was the genesis of this daily text that helped you, land more business or solve a problem?
So if you remember back then, what was happening is rates were just like, we were having 100 basis points daily swings.
Yep.
And half of the realtors still thought we were operating in a 4% environment.
Yep.
And clients would come over here, the clients would go back to the realtor, golly, I just got this quote, my payment's going to be X, da, 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 da. And the realtors were like, why are your rates so high? And I just got pissed. I just got aggravated. It's like, within me, I'm like, do you not know what's going on in the market, Mr. Realtor? And then it just dawned on me. Of course they don't. They're realtors. They have no clue. They need to know what it is. And so there was so much happening in our world right then with just a sweeping change of the interest rate environment changing and margin changing and all of that. And they had nobody telling them what was going on, what to expect. And so I just immediately jumped in there and started doing that.
And what I sense is that you didn't start doing the Jimmy Daily text with a thought of, I'm going to expand my list and now market to 100 more people, because that's not the way your archetype works. Mm-mm. You went from the stage of, I live and die by these realtors being successful. And if
Right.
I don't train them up and give them data and empower them with tools that are going to help them win in this market, they're not going to win and I'm not going to win. I got to help these guys. Is that right?
That's exactly right. And, and I'll do stuff like that all the time, Shayla. But sometimes what I find is, some of my ideas flop, but the ones that work, there starts to be a, like, this is awesome. A lot of great feedback. And so when I get that, then I'm like, okay, oh, hell yeah, I can use this to sell. And so what I started doing when I saw it was popular, I just started cold calling realtors. Or if I had realtors on the listing side, or if I met them at a networking event, hey, I got this really popular text. It's going to tell you what's going on. Can I add you to my database? It was very easy. Or make these calls. And I've got about, 80 realtors on here. You definitely want to be on here too, because it's really helping so-and-so out. So when I find an idea like that and then I get positive feedback, then I turn it into a sales opportunity.
I'm so happy you said that, because it's not that you knowing you're a trust builder and that you need to be strategic and adding value is enough. You can't just then sit on your hands and wait for the business to come to you. You now have found a way to create the enthusiasm, to make it spreadable and shareable. And you've given yourself a reason to make a cold call where you're excited to make the call because you have something of value.
Right.
I like that you said, Shayla, I'm always trying stuff like this. And what I heard you say when you said that is, I'm a trust builder, so I find people I really, really like and care about. Mm-hmm. And then I use my strategic brain to always think how I can help them be more successful.
Right.
Am I putting words in your mouth, or is that?
No, that's how I approach my realtors. The majority of my business is realtor refer business, right? That's my business. And I view them as business partners, especially my main ones. And so I'm constantly asking them. I used to have an approach where, I got this product, or I have this, guideline change or whatever. I'm going to call them and tell them about all the things that I have.
Right.
And that, about 3 or 4 years ago, my mindset shifted. No, wait a minute. I wanted to call them and ask them what they need and see if I can figure out. So I used to just pick their brains. What are you working on? What is your need right now? What are your goals? How's your business? What are you seeing that's working for you? And I'll just ask a bunch of questions. So it makes calling easy, because they'll tell you if you ask and you're really interested and curious about how they're trying to be successful, and you ask the right questions in the right way, they'll tell you exactly what they need.
That's fantastic. How has you becoming a coaching student and eventually a coach changed the way you prospect?
That's a great question. And that is probably where I learned second, third level questions. I think you've done this too, the Amplify weekend with Renee Rodriguez. Oh my gosh, that was just mind blowing to me on listening and communicating, asking the right questions, not assuming that they want what I have to sell. And so going through that, and then, learning how to become a better coach, because it's similar. As a coach, you're asking questions, trying to get somebody to come up with, a possible solution or idea, instead of just shoving the idea and solution down their throat. And so in my conversations and interactions with realtors, my livelihood is dependent on them being successful. And they like me better when I'm the person that's helping them become successful. So that's the mindset shift. And I remember talking to him just the other day. I said, you don't really care what product I have to offer. She had told me she wanted to sell 25 homes. I said, honestly, you don't care what products I have. You want to know how I'm going to help you sell 25 homes, right? She goes, yes. And so we came up with an idea together to do a little, she's a builder rep. So we came up with an idea on how to have an event for realtors that have been in the business for less than 2 years, and she wants to show them her subdivision and teach them about new construction. She could care less if I have a 100% down, no money down product, right?
Right.
So I think when you shift your mind to, I want to know about this person. I want to see what their needs are, what their plans are, what their goals are, what they're struggling with, and all that. That makes for an easier partnership on the lending side.
100%. I would like to add, and I think this may be true for you too, but my identity changed from being a subservient vendor to being a business partner.
Yes.
Once I was in coaching, once I said, I'm here to build a business.
Right.
I'm here to use my unique abilities and strengths and be process and system oriented, to be open-minded and coachable, to constantly bump up against my comfort zone and expand and challenge myself. My identity shifted to being more of a business person. And instead of running around, showing people product flyers and asking for that, handing out lollipops and donuts, it now became, hey, I want to be a business partner with you. I'm in coaching. I'm in all these trainings. I listen to these podcasts. I've done this Rainmaker assessment. I've read this book. I did this conference. Now we're still subservient, right? Let's be real.
Right.
The realtor's on the pedestal. We love them. They have to make money first. We get it second. But I'm much more of a partner, bringing value and asking them how they want to grow so that we can grow together versus just being a vendor. Would you agree with that identity shift?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I think there are a couple of things that helped me shift that in that. And one of them is tactical and one of them's mindset. So but you're 100% right. And you know what else? That's what the realtor really wants.
Yep.
They get product flyers. They get tired of that stuff. They want a partner. They really do. And, but what helped me shift that is working from a mindset of like a abundance mindset as opposed to a scarcity. In other words, I think when you're in a scarcity mindset, you just want a deal and you're just selling and please let me do this thing for you and all that. But in an abundance mindset, you're like, okay, how can I help you?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's two totally different shifts. And what got me, obviously, success and resiliency. But I think what coaching has helped me in the past is what gets you in an abundance mindset is the discipline of gratefulness and getting up in the morning and going through the morning routines of through prayer or whatever of writing down things you're grateful for and bookending your days with journaling. And coaching through Elevate helped me kind of get my routines together. And it shifted my mindset into, hey, we have something to offer. We want to help people. We're not just scavengers looking for deals. And when you're operating that mindset, it makes things a little bit easier. And I think your business, I call them business partners, my realtors like that, right? Yep. They like that. It's a more refreshing call to them. It's a more refreshing lunch meeting. It's a more refreshing sales meeting. And it's different than what the competition does, for sure.
And I just want to wrap up on coaching and the investment of coaching. I think the first thing it signals is a signal to yourself that you are serious about your business and that you are here to grow a business.
Yeah.
The person who doesn't invest in coaching, to me, either A, doesn't know about it and doesn't have the opportunity to, or B, they're just really kind of not all the way in. They're probably treating this more transactionally than relationally because abundance is relational. It is not keeping score of, I've called you 14 times and I haven't gotten a lead yet. Or if I've invited you to 4 different happy hours and you've come to every one and we've only closed one deal. Because being a rainmaker is about trusting that if you do the right things and you continue to show up for people and you add value, you build friendship, you tell a marketing story, whatever it is that your archetype is, that over time, when people need you, they will think of you. You made the deposits now you'll get the withdrawals. 100%. So I want to talk about these disciplines, and then we've got to go into Hammer 100 because this is really powerful. But, you said, I just got to do the things that I need to do. Like if I'm task oriented, I go into Salesforce, I knock out the tasks. Or if I'm coaching, I'm 100% focused on that one thing, or 100% focused on the realtor that's sitting in front of you.
Right.
How did you start scaling and just going, I'm going to get out from behind my desk and meeting people and building those relationships? Like, what were some of those things that you continue to do? And even today, you told me you heard my Rainmaker talk and booked 5 appointments. So what's that look like for you?
Yeah. So I am blessed with 2 great loan partners. All right. They've been with me for a long time, and they are amazing. All right. So I think if you're going, one of the things if you're going to scale, you have to have loan partners that do all the things that I can't stand doing. Like, but so, going back to like 17 and 18 and all that, you hit where like I could probably handle, I think, I could probably handle 10 loans a month on my own, 12 loans a month without I would consider that a high level of bandwidth that I have.
Oh yeah.
But that's like maxed out. You can't do anything else. You're just never able to, get out of the office. So once I've got the team in place, allows me to spend the majority of my time on the front end of the machine, which is relationship building, talking to clients, talking to realtors, setting up sales meetings, setting up one-on-ones. But yes, I do want to talk about what you just said, because I took your test, and it made me crystal clear about what I'm good at. And that is sitting across the table one-on-one with a realtor. That's other than standing up and doing a presentation in front of 100 of them, I'd rather sit with you one-on-one.
Yep.
And so the next day, because I'm like you, I'm like, I don't hesitate. I'm like, I'm going to create something off of this immediately and implement it tomorrow. And I was like, all right, team, we're going to do a 20 for 20. And they're like, whoa, shit, here comes one of Jimmy's crazy ideas. And I said, we're going to meet with 20 realtors and 20 business days to make 20 grand. Who's in with me?
Nice.
And I put like this spreadsheet together and contest. And then we started the next Monday. And so we're all now like making appointments. And I scripted out, this is what I want. We're going to say, this is what I want you to ask the realtor. And we're going to talk about them. We're going to cover their needs. We're not going to sell. And we did that. And so, like after that, I booked, I don't know, I'm averaging 5, 6, 7 realtor appointments a week now until I hit 20. But that test really refocused my energy because I kind of let that go a little bit.
I think it's really cool because you're getting scale in the sense that you're doing the Jimmy text. How many people receive your Jimmy text a day, by the way, including all of us guildies?
Including the guildies? Oh my gosh. I personally text 323 people, something like that. It grows. Every time you talk about it, it grows, by the way.
Sorry.
But it's like 323 people a day.
So what you just said about meeting one-on-one is that once you've built something, it is easy to get stuck in comfort mode.
Yes.
It is easy to go like, hey, my life's pretty good. I just went to Paris. I love my kids. I've got a $150 million branch. I'm growing by 26%. And the real magic, if you went back to the 73 realtors that referred you, how many of those had that powerful, focused, present, heart-to-heart Jimmy one-on-one?
Yeah.
Because you can always trace it back to that and go, damn, it's not that complicated. I just got to go back to that thing.
Right.
Tell me about last year. You said you had 12 new realtors you added to your business. You call them gold prospects. Right.
So I have this thing I label realtors, and I coach this within Elevate, and I coach this to my loan officers. We have to classify them green or gold. All right. So green are people that have sent you a referral in the last 12 months. Those are green. Those conversations are different. You can have those conversations. There's Tuesday updates because you got loans in process. You're familiar with them. They constantly refer you. You can't grow unless that green realtor grows.
Right.
The fastest way to grow is to add a new realtor. And so we're going to call those gold, not cold real. We're going to call them gold. It's how you make a gold. You're going to have to add one. You need to add 1, 2, or 3 realtors every year. Every year you just add. And so usually at the beginning of the year, I do this old, you know what? I'll call them up and I'll say, hey, you know what? We've never done business together. And one of my goals this year is to do business with you, Shayla. What do you say we go for lunch and talk about it? You open to that? I mean, it's simple, it's stupid, but it's simple. And they're like, okay, that sounds great. And then I'll talk to them. And, all you need to do is fail about 90, if you fail about 96% of the time, but if you win 5% of the time, you've added a couple new realtors. And this might lead us into Hammer 100, but I think the reason, and I coach this, the reason people don't do that is this little voice inside their head that tells them, oh, don't call that person. They're going to be mean to you, or they're not going to accept, this little limitations we put on ourselves. And once I think you learn to break through those limitations, and if I can coach somebody to break through those limitations, then their business will expand.
So this is a perfect segue, because ultimately what I think this Rainmaker movement really is going to be about for people is the simple fact that we need to meet more people and see more people.
100%.
Period. I've been spending so much time in my sales training talking about, the art of building rapport and asking powerful questions and doing discovery and having a great presentation and closing skills. And while all of those things matter, because you will get to the goal a hell of a lot faster with a lot less stress when you're good at the art of all of those parts and pieces.
Yes.
The overwhelming majority have a problem that they just don't talk to new people. They are not out there networking, and yet they're a networker.
Right.
They're not marketing, and yet they're a marketer. They're not building trust with more people and expanding their circle, yet that is what they're good at. They're almost never going to get turned down, because all you trust builders, I'm not one. What I found is you're charming and you're like the friend everybody wants. Like you're the cool guy at the pool, regardless if you look like Bon Jovi. All these trust builders are like, damn, no wonder you're so fun. And like, I just like you. That's not me. Right?
Oh, yes, it is.
No,
yes,
no.
It is.
I mean, I've learned to be that way. No, but truly, like we need to have more initial contact. Right. And we have to remember that sales is a contact sport. No matter what you're selling, it will never change. We talk about in Major League Baseball, the best batting average is like 35%, but you got to swing the bat 10 times to get those 35% hits and get paid best ever money out there. And the problem is most people, like you said, are living in these limiting beliefs, or they don't have accountability, or they've never really gotten connected to what am I strong at? Is it the one-on-one? Is it the networking? Like, what is it?
Yeah.
And so they don't see enough people. So tell me about Hammer 100 and where this amazing idea was born from in your brain, and what's happened with this movement, because this is another Jimmy movement around the world.
Yeah. So this is cool. So I will say this, in 2023 and 2024, a lot of people bought into the fact that, rates are going to get down and we just have to just like hang in there until rates get better and it's all going to be great. And I kept my mouth shut because I didn't believe that for 1 second. And I still believe we got a whole nother year to deal with this.
Yeah.
And so I was like, no, I don't believe that about 2024. I think it's going to be hard. It's going to be a grind. I have to still figure out a way to add new people, talk to new people, generate referrals, and all this stuff. So I was drawn to this book because I was trying to like get some creative ideas about it. And my word was like endure. It's like, how am I going to endure until this cycle? To remind you of experience going. A lot of loan officers can say they've gone through 2 really big downturns. And so I've gone through 2. I'm in my 3rd one. I know this is not just a 12-month situation. So and I find a book called Endure, Keep Hammering by Cameron Haynes. Okay. And I was like, I'm going to read this. This looks great. And it has nothing to do with mortgage business, but I don't know if you've read that book, but Cameron Haynes is a really interesting guy. He had a tough childhood, which most of us in the mortgage business did, by the way. But he had a tough childhood, and he talked about how he just kind of like broke through all these limitations and became like the best elk hunter in the world. But then there's this chapter in this book where he gets into 100-mile racing, ultra marathoning. Wow. And in that book is a quote by David Goggins, who wrote a book called Can't Hurt Me. I don't know if you ever heard of it. David Goggins is like the most intense person in the world ever created. And so, but David Goggins had this quote, and I read it and I reread it and I read it, but it says something like this. Most people feel like they've hit the wall. Most people feel like they have to stop when they hit that quitting point where they tell themselves, I can't go any further. And the most people are really, truly about 40% of what they can do. There's a whole nother 60% of what you can accomplish. So I read that and I was like, is that true? Is that really true? Like when I'm ready to quit, whether it's working out or prospecting, do I really have 60% more to go? And I kept thinking about that. And I said, I'd like to put that theory to the test, but there ain't no way in hell I'm going to run 100 miles. No way. That's just not my thing. Like, I'm never going to do that. But I am passionate about, my business. So I thought, I wonder if 100 conversations in one day would be hard enough to take somebody to past their limit to where you're at 40%. I got to quit. And then we push it through, because in that theory and that concept it's in that I'm ready to quit, but I got 60% more to go. It's in that zone is where you discover a lot about yourself, where you discover what you can accomplish and where growth occurs. So I called my good buddy, who's always up for anything that I come up with. His name's Adam Snable. I think you may have met him.
Of course, I love Adam.
Yeah, I see. He goes, that's the craziest hell idea, and I'm in. So I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to call this an endurance challenge for mortgage professionals. And I did the math, and I'm like, okay, I'd have to have 10 conversations an hour for 10 hours. So it's a full day. So it's physically possible to do. But it's extremely hard. And the goal is not, I think a byproduct of something like this is to generate a lot of referrals and appointments. It was great. Yep. But ultimately, I wanted to see, all right, I want to push myself to the point where I start telling myself I can't do it anymore. And I want to keep going and keep going and keep going. So just create an environment to do that. So I got Adam, I got my loan officers, I got some students in Elevate. They all bought into the deal. So we had a prep call the very first time we did it. And I said, guys, it's an experiment. Let's get fired up about it. I'm going to do this no matter how long it takes, right? That's what I told them. You can come with me or not. I told my wife, I said, this is an experiment. So I just cleared everything at home because I didn't know how long it was going to take me, right? And so I cleared everything at work, turned off the email. I had an idea that I said, I don't leave voicemails. I give them a text that just says, hey, this is Jimmy. Call me right back. I have a quick question. So I'm going to generate inbound calls, a little spreadsheet because I'm a spreadsheet guy, and all these things. And so we all got on a Zoom. We muted our calls and we started it. And we went through the process. And I did it the first go around. And it was just amazing. Now I wanted to quit after about 60 conversations.
Which is what, 8 hours in or so?
Yeah. I'm like, gosh. And is it that moment, and then that experiment started happening. It's like, it's in that moment what you discover is, and now I'm able to coach this. But what I discovered is here comes that little voice that's giving me all the reasons I need to quit. You've done enough, right? Why are you even doing this? Like, I mean, come on, you need to get home. Stephanie's probably like pulling her hair out with the kid. I mean, it's, or nobody wants to hear you call them at 6 o'clock in, the evening, Jimmy, right?
Yep.
All that little voices, all the excuses. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. There it is. That's it. This is what the book, this is what David Goggins talks about. This is what they're talking about. You have this little voice inside your head that starts giving you excuses to quit anytime you get uncomfortable. So we learned through that. And what was very cool is I kind of knew that was going to happen and I was ready for it. But a lot of people I was coaching and leading through, they didn't know that was going to happen. And they experienced it though. And so, here we are all day long calling people. And the rules around Hammer 100 where you can't just call them and talk to them. Right. You have to call them. I mean, it's not just 100 calls. It's 100 conversations, but it's not just a conversation. It has to be a conversation where you ask for business. Like, can you get more uncomfortable than that? No, you can't.
Yeah. 100, it just 100 asks is probably more than most people do in at least a quarter. Some people in a year, they don't ever ask for business. They are buddy selling. They are just going, hey girl, hey bro, what's up? Yeah. Call me if you need me, but they're not asking for the business. So 100 asks. 100 asks. In one day.
And so you had to be precise, right? The tactical part of me and the mathematical part of me is like, I can't have more than a 6-minute conversation, right? Because I got to get this thing done. So you create a little script that's very quick and precise. Gets the job done. Now you do have those talkers that want to talk for 15, 20 minutes. And in my mind, I'm like, oh my gosh. But, you learn how to, politely get off the phone and all of that. But yeah, so
how many people completed it the first time and how long did it take?
Okay. So I think I got finished in about right at 10 hours.
Okay.
So we had about 15 people, and I want to say about half actually did it. The whole thing. Yeah. But there were some people that worked for 13 or 14 hours and they had 256 dials.
Wow.
Isn't that insane?
Yeah.
And they were like, this is the greatest thing I've ever done in my life, And so, we've gotten a lot of good tactics around how to complete one of these things, but the expectation, the reality is I don't expect everybody to be able to complete that.
Yeah.
The purpose of this is all right, let's try it. Let's see if you can get to a point where you can identify the excuse maker in your head. And let's try to discipline ourselves, tell that excuse maker to shut the F up, that you're not important to me right now.
Yep.
And let's create a new voice that says, I'm getting this done no matter what. And let's make that voice louder. And so that's the purpose of the Hammer 100. And so you got to coach to that. Then you lead them through it, and then you have a debrief call afterward. And the stories, I come to tears sometimes when I hear some of the stories I hear. They're like, oh my gosh, I've never called a well in my life. And I called them and they set an appointment with me. This is life-changing, and all that. And they realized the reason they never called the well before is because of the little voice inside their head that told them the well would never take their call. But they get themselves in an environment where they have to do it.
Yep.
Because we got this challenge going on. They make the call. And sure enough, the well's super nice. And it's like, I'd love to meet with you.
Yep.
Right. So it builds good confidence builder. But it's a way to push you past your limits and then see what happens afterwards.
And these 12 new gold prospects and your 26% growth in 23 to 24, do you attribute some or all of that to your Hammer 100s?
I would say some of them, yes. Now I picked a lot of those up before that, where I just, I learned to shut down that voice a long time ago. But yes, absolutely, yes. I've set appointments because you got to make the calls.
Yeah. I'm so happy you brought up that voice. As you know, I did 75 hard in this last year.
Yes, same exact, yes, concept.
It's the same thing. And if you're ever going to consider doing 75 hard, you've got to listen to Andy Frisella's podcast explaining what it is, because he does exactly what you just did. Is he said, this isn't about really the 100 calls and the spreadsheet and the list and all the prep to do the list, although that's all a fabulous side benefit. 75 hard isn't about dropping 20 pounds or losing 5% belly fat. It's actually a mental toughness challenge.
Sure.
And he calls it the bitch voice. He says, you've got to deal with your bitch voice. And it is amazing because it's a no fail challenge. Every single day, you got to be on it, because if you miss one day, if you work out 42 minutes instead of 45, you got to start over.
And you've done this twice, right?
I have done the full 75, and then I've done 3 rounds of 30 more days. And I'm about to complete the final 30 days for it to be like the Live Hard challenge. But you know what I'm telling you? I actually live better when I have a challenge. I think we all do, because there's just no excuses. And then again, you do see what you're really made of, and you do confront that little voice, but you're like, oh, no, not today. I think like what you and I have talked about is, if you know that you can do it once and you can show yourself what's truly capable in one day, what can you do if you put one of these a month on your calendar because you are that serious about changing the direction of your family's financial future forever? What if you really just freaking went all in? What if you went for it? And I love that you said, I learned to quiet that voice a long time ago, because I think that that's a perfect segue to just say my dream is for everyone listening to figure out how to be authentically themselves. Jimmy, you are so lovable and memorable because you shine on other people. And I think that comes from being in your authentic trueness, that you can shine it out on other people and give them that kind of presence and focus, because you have it within you. And I think if you don't accept challenges like this, you don't sign up and pay for coaching, you don't invest in yourself, you're ultimately sending the message, I don't believe in me.
Right.
And if you're not going to believe in you, then don't even go on a coffee appointment. Don't even go to the networking event, because you better freaking believe that you're going to take great care of that client. You deserve the job. And so my dream is, with this Rainmaker archetype, is people like you, Jimmy, will have your realtors take it, and you'll have conversations around saying, okay, bro, like, you're a networker. Tell me how many networking events you've been to in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And tell me about that little bitch voice. What is it saying? And what can we do together to confront that little voice? Because that's the only thing that's in the way of you being self-made, of you creating the kind of freedom that's that's only available to people who are rainmakers and go out and create their own luck and create their own opportunity and build awesome relationships and go for it. So you've put together a real life mortgage endurance challenge.
I know, not crazy.
Called the Hammer 100. It's now happened all over the country. I heard about this and said, I'm doing it. Yeah. I'm a producing branch manager too. And when was the last time I was on the frickin' phone?
Right.
And I've now done it twice. I didn't complete it either time, which is good for me because I do well with failure. It pisses me off until I get there. And I just want to say thank you for your leadership, Jimmy, because you so generously show up for people on a one-on-one basis, but also in a group basis. And every idea that you come up with, you share. You share it out to your branch. You share it out to the people like Adam and in your region. Mm-hmm. You share it out through Elevate. We throw you on stage. And now you're doing the same in this podcast. So if you could leave the listeners with any final thoughts or tactic or way that they can stay in touch, what would you leave them with?
Well, I think what you said is exactly right, Shayla. I think if you're listening to this and you want to grow, which most of us want to grow, like we're built to grow, you can't grow in a place of comfort. It's impossible. that little voice we call it bitch voice now. All right. So that little voice, the bitch voice only shows up when you push yourself. It's quiet. If that bitch voice is not showing up, you know what that means? That means you're not doing anything. You're just living in your little area of comfort. And that could be in any area of your life.
Yeah.
That voice is I think we all have it. It's a natural response. Things get uncomfortable. We're out of our comfort zone. We're going to attempt to do something. And that voice immediately wants to put us back in comfort zone. If you want to grow, you have to push yourself or get yourself in an uncomfortable position, whether that's a Hammer 100, whether that's getting into coaching for the first time. I'm going to recommend doing it with people, not on your own. And putting yourself in a position where that voice is screaming at you to not do it, that you're going to fail, that you can't do this. And then working to shut it up and then see what happens afterwards. It's not that scary, y'all. It's not. It's going to be okay. And it's in those areas where all your juices flow and your creativity flows and you find out what you're made of. But you can't do it in a place of comfort. You never will. So if I could leave you with anything is find a person, a group, whether it's through coaching or a company, whether it's through your coaching or Elevate, whatever you can do to get in a place of uncomfortableness. It's the only place you can grow.
I was just thinking about running 2 different half marathons, and I'm not a runner just like you. But if I didn't sign up to do that with other people, there's no way I would have even shown up to the race, let alone completed it.
Right.
It wasn't until I was in coaching on a call with other people and I couldn't hide and I invested in myself and I'm here and I'm going, okay, I better implement. I'm spending the money. I want the return. And I'm in the group of other people. I think that was the most brilliant way to close this, is that going at it alone is just not the way. Jimmy, thank you. I know we can find you on Instagram, Jimmy Parsons.
Yeah, Jimmy Knows Mortgage. I'm Jimmy Knows Mortgage out there. So find me on Jimmy Knows Mortgage.
Jimmy Knows Mortgage. Thank you for the way that you contribute to the world. And I'm so proud of you and your success, because we started off this call offset here talking about how much you enjoy helping other people succeed. Yeah. And you can see it genuinely in the way you do that with your realtors and your realtor partners. And you can absolutely see it the way you do it with your loan officers and now with Elevate. And it just doesn't seem like you've put a limit on yourself and the amount of people that you can impact and help grow them and grow their success. Right. And I don't know if that's the secret happy pill that you take every day that keeps your energy fired up, but I'm sure grateful that you really pour into other people.
Well, appreciate you so very much, and back at you for sure.